Welcome, friends, it is I, LostScarf, and it's time for the short Smite beginner guide for Ao Kuang, the magical assassin. This dragon is scary as heck. He can go all in and get the heck out of there with ease because of his execution attack, and we'll go over that soon enough. Now, this is for beginners, going to be a lot of information to help beginners out so they get a better understanding of Ao Kuang and play better with him. Expert and advanced players, not so much here for you, but still watch the video, see if there's anything you maybe have missed, and also put in the comments anything you feel like it should be elaborated on. That'll be very helpful to beginners. Because the more people who get good with Ao Kuang, the better the game gets in general, because then more people have to learn to counter Ao Kuang, and that's a good thing. So let's get going. Class and roles. Now, Ao Kuang's very special. He is a magical assassin. Now, that gives him an advantage. As an assassin that also has magical abilities, supports are usually built to deal with, like, physical threats. The ADC is usually physical, and the jungle is usually physical. So you see a lot of builds set up for that. Now, since Ao Kuang is magical, supports will not have a lot of defense towards them, which will be very helpful. The other advantage is, since he's a mage, he kind of clears the camps very well, so he can farm very quickly and kill gods very quickly. He is a very scary god to deal with. Now, for beginners, you want to play him in the jungle role because he is just so good at it. He can clear very quickly with his dragons, his 3 can help out as well, and he can gank very easily because of his ability to be invisible to go in there, or use his invisibility to get the heck out of there if he makes a mistake. And then there's his ultimate. You beat someone down, execute them, and then just leave. It is such a useful ability for Ao Kuang that you are just always annoying to the enemy team, and they're going to regret every time you show up because you're just so hard to take out. Now, for niche roles, Ao Kuang can actually play everything. He can do every role. I've won with every role. It's very fun, but you need teammates who are willing to play with that idea. Don't just do that in a casual game. Do that with friends, because you can make it work, and it's just funny how well it works. It's crazy. He just doesn't have a great clear at the start, but later on, he is just scary as heck. Ao Kuang's abilities. First up is his passive King Sword. Now, his sword has 3 charges on it. And when you use an ability, a charge gets used and gives 5% extra damage to your ability. So that's really nice there. But what's on top of that is, when you run out of mana, it'll use a charge as well to cast an ability. So you're not always down even when you're out of mana, which makes you a scary threat to your opponents. Now, you only recharge your sword when you're out of combat, and it's every 5 seconds out of combat. Ao Kuang's first ability is Water Illusion. This is a short-range teleport that leaves a fake behind and also makes Ao Kuang invisible. Taking damage or doing attacks will break your invisibility, and you can also cast your illusion again to make the illusion explode, which can be useful for clearing things, or even hurting someone if they're in close range with you. Now, his second ability is called Dragon Call. It summons 6 dragons that last 10 seconds. Each basic attack you do uses one of these dragons for additional damage. It can also be cast again to do a ranged attack that will slow your opponent depending on how many dragons you use. Also has damage depending on how many dragons as well. His third ability is called Wildstorm. This is a thin cone attack that counts as a basic attack. It can also use your dragons as well. And then finally is the ultimate, King of the Eastern Seas. Ao Kuang grabs a target. Now, if their HP is low enough, Ao Kuang eats them, turns into a dragon, and can launch himself down at whatever location within range of where he is, doing additional damage and recharging his sword. So you can use this aggressively to get into another fight or to get out of there. But if the enemy is above threshold, you just launch them into the air for damage, and that's that. Tips and combos. The first one's obvious, that is, you want to have all 3 charges ready for a fight. When you go in there, all 3 charges will make you hit harder, and they'll be in trouble if you do that. Now, something important to keep in mind is, when you go invisible, your illusion keeps a short trail behind you when you first cast it, so your enemy has a vague idea where you are, so keep that in mind. Another thing is, Ao Kuang's invisibility is good for opening attacks and for escaping. You should only use it for that. Don't just use your illusion's explosion willy-nilly for, like, clearing or something. Save that for situations where you're going to go do some killing or getting the hell out of there. You don't want that on cooldown when you need it. Something very important is about Dragon Call, and that is, use the first 5 dragons for damage and the 6th one for slow, so that they're slowed by 30% so you can just go and beat them up some more. It's just really useful for that. Also, if an enemy gets away from you, you can always use the ranged dragons to slow them down to catch up for your execution. If an enemy is low, you can risk tower diving for executions. It's just useful to do it because you'll just get out of there because of execution. Now, Dragons plus Storm can be very useful for clearing. That's something just to keep in mind if you want to clear really quick. That's something you can do. A very big one to keep in mind is that your dragons can be used for procs, like Gem of Isolation. That is really useful. Another thing is, if the support's not built for magical defense, take advantage of that. Beat the crap out of support. Make him regret not building to defend against you. And lastly, only commit to a fight if you have an ultimate ready for the escape, or if you know you can escape safely with your invisibility or something else. Because that execution, it just makes people hate dealing with you because you never get killed unless they can lock you down. Now, when it comes to combos, there's really only 2 combos, and that is the 2-3-4 or the 1-2-3-4, and that is, you run in, you beat them up with your dragons, and then you do additional damage with the storm, and then you eat them to finish them off with your combo, and then you get out of there and go to another fight. The other version is to teleport in. This is only if your enemy has like some way of being able to easily get away from you, so you teleport in so they don't see you coming, beat them up with the dragons, do addition damage to storm, and then eat them to finish your combo. That's really it. Those are your combos. You always open with your dragons, so you don't open with anything else. You open with dragons. It's just whether you want to teleport in or run in, and then you finish with your eating. That's what you do, and that's how you're going to do it. Ao Kuang's purchases. Now, because Ao Kuang has so much natural damage with his dragons, and he has a safe escape with his invisibility, and also his execution, he can be played very aggressive. You can all in with him and be safe at the same time. It's ridiculous. You want to build a lot of power, penetration, movement speed, attack speed, and lifesteal on him, because all that power will ensure that you get that execution more chances than not. Now, when it comes to actives, Sprint isn't a bad idea because it'll let you chase people down or get out of bad situations, but beads or Aegis really feel like they might be a must because of CC being a problem. CC locks everyone down, and since Ao Kuang's so squishy, when he gets locked down, he might die. So beads will get you out of a bad spot, and then you can maybe beat someone up to get an execute, or just invis to get the hell out of there. One thing to keep in mind is proc items are very useful in Ao Kuang because of the dragon, so it's something you can consider. Last thing to keep in mind is, if you're playing him as a jungler, you'll be using the Hand of the Gods active, so you'll probably want to get beads or Aegis with that active, so you have something to keep you alive if you get in a bad spot. In conclusion, Ao Kuang is a very good assassin. He's really good at getting in and getting out because of his invisibility and his execution. He does really good raw damage. He is just an annoying person for people to deal with because he's just so good at killing you. No one on the other team is safe unless they have some CC, but if he has beads, that gets mitigated, and he just wrecks them anyway. That is what happens there, because his only weakness is CC and damage. He's a squishy guy, CC's everyone's weakness, but when he gets out of that, he will execute people, and that will make him unstoppable basically every minute. That right there is the guide for Ao Kuang. Keep in mind what you're doing with Ao Kuang. Like, you want to go all in with him, so you want to find a target you know you can kill. If they have like an ability to jump over a wall, you got to think of a way to deal with that fact. You just want to always stick to someone, beat them up, execute them, and get the hell out of there. And do that like every minute or so. You will get so many kills in the game, you will frustrate the opposing team, and your teammates will have a good chance at winning the game because there's not a lot of resistance in the way. That is the guide right there. Up next is going to be Aphrodite. That's going to be an interesting guide to go over because she does a lot of really good healing and a lot of good clearing, but she is not a killing machine, but she can make a team be the machine for her. So there you go right there. That's the guide. I had fun from watching it. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.